And do you think now, with the accommodation crisis that we have, do you think it's solvable in the next, say, like, by the sounds of it, and from a lot of commentary that's coming around the sector, that we're looking probably easily 2 or 3 years before it sort of flushes out and before some stability comes back into it. Would you sort of subscribe to that sort of time frame, or do you think it's going to be longer? Do you think there's external, like, there's also then the thing to look at what's happening in China with Evergrande, and will that have an impact on us? Like, what's your sort of take on the time frame side of things?
Well, there's a couple of things I would say. Yes, it's going to take time. I mean, we are dealing with the implications of the state not investing in housing for 3 decades now. And just to go back to small landlords, I would suggest they are punishing small landlords for that lack of investment. But that's another, you can have a whole podcast session on that. But I think we have a plan now, the Housing for All plan.
Do you think it's good? Have you, like, what's your take on it?
Plans are easy, Nick. Plans are really easy. You talk to someone in the construction sector about the lack of all kinds of labour and expertise. Finance is an ongoing issue. Take your point about Evergrande and the threat of contagion, but if the state is involved, raising finance, etc., won't be a problem. But it takes a long time to develop a greenfield site into housing or into apartments. Takes probably maybe twice as long. So yeah, it's going to take at least 3 years before we see an improvement. And in the short term, the state should be doing all they can to encourage landlords to stay in the business of being a landlord rather than leave it. There are encouraging signs around the number of new homes we're going to deliver this year. That number has been increased. I see we're going to deliver over 20,000 units. But we're one of the few countries in Europe that shut down its construction sites for months. And it takes a long time to ramp up. And the other thing I would say is it's really only in recent, or it feels maybe this year or maybe the end of last year, that the government have realised we're in an accommodation crisis. I think a lot more stakeholders were aware of that. And I think what I would say is that you saw when COVID first hit Ireland, that the kind of emergency measures the government could bring in essentially overnight to limit how we live. And they responded with those kind of measures to an emergency. And I would suggest that they need to introduce more emergency measures to deal with the accommodation crisis. But look, we have a plan. Plans are easy now. They've got to implement it.